Today's episode is brought to you by the Digital Vans Triple Crown of Surfing, which returns to the North Shore this December and will run 4 weeks from December 21st, 2021 through January 21st, 2022. And it'll take place at the 3 historic venues that you're already well aware of: the Vans Hawaii Pro at Haleiwa, the Vans World Cup of Surfing at Sunset Beach, and the Vans Pipe Masters at the Bonsai Pipeline. And it'll award individual titles to both the men and the women, and then an overall Vans Triple Crown Series champion. And registration has actually just begun on November 15th, so visit vanstriplecrownofsurfing.com, and then of course follow on Instagram at Vans Triple Crown Surf to learn more. And then, very importantly, Vans is actually partnering with Sustainable Coastlines for the 2021 Digital Vans Triple Crown of Surfing. Sustainable Coastlines Hawaii is a grassroots nonprofit organization with a mission to inspire local communities to care for their coastlines. Is there any better way to do it? They accomplish this by organizing fun and engaging community beach cleanup activities, sharing knowledge through a robust educational program, promoting awareness through public outreach campaigns, and then engaging business leadership in hands-on solutions through corporate cleanups, providing the tools needed for others to host their own cleanups, and offering sustainability consulting and waste diversion at events. And this isn't new. For the past 8 years, they've collaborated with Vans to reduce waste, improve recycling and composting practices, and keep the North Shore beaches clean during the Vans Triple Crown of Surfing season. And over that course of time, this partnership has helped to turn over 27,000 pounds of waste into resource by recycling and composting materials that would have otherwise been incinerated. So I encourage you to get involved and learn more at sustainablecoastlineshawaii.org. And of course, we will be following and updating you on the Digital Vans Triple Crown of Surfing here on Surf Splendor, our various shows. And then of course, follow it on Instagram at Vans Triple Crown of Surf. Izzy Paskowitz, welcome to the podcast. Is it Izzy or Israel? What are we doing?
It started off as Israel, and as a young child, I think I was a little embarrassed being such a Jewy name and kind of not fitting the description. I'm more of a little brown boy, but now I think I'm a little bit more. I'd like to be called Israel, but it's too late. I'm stuck with Izzy. And I like that too. It's like a little old Jewish man's name. So again, it just kind of doesn't fit, but it does.
You're growing into Izzy. Eventually, 15, 20 more years, you can start to really work the old man angle.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I put the words right in my own mouth. Are you kidding me? I'm spotting with peeing and yeah, I'm turning into that little old man. What the hell am I talking about? I am. I have 3 grandkids. Yeah,
I couldn't believe that, dude. When I was checking you out on Instagram, I'm like, wait, that doesn't make sense. You can't be old enough to have grandkids.
Yeah, a funny grandpa story. I was so excited. I just found out my daughter was going to have a baby, and I'm down in San Onofre, and I'm with Sonny Garcia, and I go, Sonny, I'm going to be a grandpa, dude. I beat you, man. I'm 49. He goes, oh, bro, I was 10 years younger than you when I had my first grandchild.
He was 39? Holy cow.
Very close to it, something around there. Yeah, and I got such a chuckle. I still think about that all the time.
Amazing.
Yeah, I thought, I was like, wow, this is how we do it in the hood.
Yeah, no kidding. So how many grandkids do you have?
3.
Okay.
3.
Cool.
Yeah, blessed with Bronson is my eldest.
It's a great name, by the way.
He's 9. I know, I love it. I tattooed right on my chest.
Do you really?
His father did that. And then Josephine, kind of named after my favorite auntie, Josefina, and my mom's ancestry from Zacatecas, Mexico. And then there's a little teeny girl now, new one, Ozzy, and she's 3 months.
What's her full name? Ozzy?
Ozzy.
Is it short for something?
Ozzy. So new. I haven't even remembered her name. Izzy Paskowitz Allen. Oh no, Ozzy, after my mom who just passed away. Ozzy Julieta Paskowitz Allen.
Got it. But Ozzy is the actual name on the birth certificate?
Ozzy.
Okay. So
I hated it at first. I love it now.
So I'm a new father.
Yes, sir.
Literally 3 week old. I have firstborn. He's 3 weeks old
God
yesterday.
bless.
And we call him Ozzy.
Nice.
Yeah. His name's Austin, but we call him Ozzy for short.
Nice.
So,
all right. Well, Ozzy will have to meet Ozzy.
exactly. We're going to cover lots of stuff here, but I think we have to start with kind of your family, of course, your dad. And I'd imagine most people's kind of introduction to you and your family now is the film Surfwise, the documentary. Is that true?
I think so.
Is it?
I think so. I think, it was, it's definitely who we are as Paskowitzes. When most people think about us, they think about all of us. I love that. I love that, we were the originals, I always kind of joke around, even in my mom's, obituary, the LA Times called me and we were discussing how a new movie out was not Caravan or won an Academy Award. I'll get it in a second. Nomadland.
Oh yeah, just recently.
Yeah. Nomadland, and kind of, sharing the reality of, not like my, new Sprinter, my Mercedes Sprinter.
It's not glorified at all.
It wasn't glorified at all, that our buddies at Rally just gave us in New York. But it's kind of more like Paskowitz, and I made a note that we were like that times 100, shitting in a bucket. Try 11 people shitting in a bucket
in a 24-footer
in a camper that slept 6. That's a lot of shit.
Yeah.
But the experiences, I don't know, they were so amazing, so unique, so one of a kind, but they will never be replicated, and living kind of the van life,
It couldn't be because your parents would be
in
prosecuted
jail?
for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we kind of were a little bit on the lam. We'd come into town and we'd stop at a place and we'd get this interview in the paper the next day, wow, look at these, this family all running around, no one's in school, and from wherever we were, in the Outer Banks and Cape Hatteras paper printed a shot of all of us and camper, and then eventually we'd kind of squirrel away and get out of there. Never were busted, but nobody has too much of an education. But just that whole lifestyle and getting up and surfing a spot and going to another one and meeting new people and being poor, being really dirt poor, surviving on tortillas and a chicken that we shared 11 ways with a lot of beans and was kind of just a norm for us,
So I got a lot to ask you about that, actually. There's a story in that film, I think, where an auntie or somebody says that your dad actually inherited $40,000. First of all, your dad was a doctor, so he could have earned a living, and if he'd wanted to. It wasn't that he was destitute. He had the option of earning a living. But beyond that, there was a story about him inheriting $40,000 and declining it. So I'm watching it. I'm pretty pragmatic. I'm thinking, hey, go on the road and live on the road, but keep that 40K in the bank so that you can buy fuel when you need it or buy an extra chicken when you need it. With the benefit of hindsight and being a father and a grandfather yourself now, do you wish he had done it differently, or why didn't he do it differently? Why didn't he have a nest egg to draw off of had he needed it? What are your thoughts?
No. It never, for you and I, for sure we would have. We would have squirreled it away somewhere, and we would be able to have accessed that money, down the road. But for him, he lived and died on his own terms. So there never was an option. It was always, there's no way. It's like giving Superman kryptonite. Hey, you want this? No, I don't think so. That'll kill me. And that's kind of, it's dramatic.
Got it.
And that's the way he was. He was very dramatic, and that to him would have represented living too high on the hog, gaining weight, being unhealthy, perhaps someone getting sick because they were, ate too much or gained weight and and couldn't do the things that we did, as a young, scrappy, fierce little pack of wolves. So yeah, it never was an option.
Do you view that as a shortcoming of his, that he couldn't integrate those two things, or was it actually his strength?
No, that's him. That was him. That's his strength. It was all or nothing, and he was all in. You couldn't bribe him. You couldn't do any of that stuff. He had no love for money, and unfortunately, it kind of fell into place with a lot of his children. Some of us really want and strive and work at making money, and some, or I should say, maybe most of us don't. We're happy as is, mm-hmm. and I know money doesn't make us happy, and so I never really. Now I've got a very, very beautiful, smart, wife that keeps it together. But without her support, I am sure I'd still be in some type of a car, some type of a dwelling that has four wheels.
Are you happy with the way that film turned out?
Yeah. I liked Surfwise. In perfect Paskowitz fashion, I was in Cabo the day of the premiere. I hadn't seen it yet, and I'd been surfing Nine Palms, and I got back to the airport. I was late and poured a bottle of water over my head and got naked in the parking lot and got dressed with my outfit that I was going to wear that night, and went straight from LAX to the ArcLight, and got to witness something that made me kick back and reflect on what a unique life I had. That's gonna come once every 600 years.
Oh yeah,
it's a Halley Comet.
Yeah,
it's Halley's Comet, and I felt very unique. And I don't know. I think I always felt very unique, but seeing that in front of me, and people that saw it, for how raw and real it was appreciative, because everyone has, it wasn't a surf movie, first of all. It was a family saga, families that deal with issues, and good and bad, and we all have those, and we all fight, and we do, dumb
a lot
shit.
of people aren't willing to share it, though. And that's the other thing is, like, I can't imagine another group of 9 or 10 people who all agree to pull back the curtain in that way. Right. And let it and give access to filmmakers.
Right.
And first of all, there's part of the story is that your family was contentious, Right. And so the fact that you are all contentious, but you all agreed to let these filmmakers in, pull back the curtain, and show some of the uglier sides of it is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, but I think that's just the way we grew up. Every Friday it's the Shabbat, and as a bunch of half-breed, Mexican Jews, we get out of the camper, we start singing the Shema in Hebrew and doing our Sabbath prayers, and it's just a typical, Friday for us, and that was, kind of being unfiltered and being who we were, and so we never needed to kind of throw a cloak over who we were. And we were very raw and very honest, and that was the way we grew up.
Good for you.
For peeing and pooping in public and living on the streets, and we were kind of like that. So I don't think I knew that we were doing something that might have shared or benefited or helped anyone else, but I really enjoyed just reflecting on what a unique life I had, and it was I don't know if it was over, but it certainly wasn't over, because my life, I guess getting to the next segment of my life, was unique and different.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, perfect.
Right. The documentary kind of talks about when each of the siblings left the family fold, left the camper, so to speak. When did you decide to leave?
When Abraham got kicked out.
When what?
Abraham got kicked out.
Okay, so what was that story, and what path did you pursue?
I pursued the path of the magnolia and the PCH back to San Clemente because he kicked out Abraham for doing something. And then my dad got mad at him, and the focus on his hair was, I think he was trying to cut his hair with a spoon or something. And it's hard to run away from somebody when you're in that camper and you're driving. So he was very mad at Abraham and said, "You're out." And Abraham jumped out, and I thought to myself, in that split second, that's my best friend going out the door in Huntington Beach. I think I'll go with him. No second thought, which certainly I didn't have a bunch of stuff, to pack up.
How old were you?
15.
Okay.
I know, and I worry about my son Eli at 25 just moving out. So, but things were different back then. And I really, I had a great time. I had a great time as a 15-year-old on his own with no parenting. And things just fell into place. I didn't have much of an education, so I certainly wasn't going to get a job at an ad agency, doing copy or at a magazine doing any kind of design work, or I didn't know what 6 times 6 was. But I fell in with a group of surfers, and I got a job right away, and had that job for 15 minutes. Then I quit.
What job was it?
Carl's Jr. When Carl Karcher opened up his first Carl's Jr. down in South San Clemente, when parks to go to Trestles, I was in there for about 15 minutes in my Carl's Jr. outfit, and I forget who came in, but it's like, oh, wow. I'm 15 years old. This isn't very cool. I'm ready to get the hell out of here. So as soon as I saw one of my friends, I escaped out of the back.
Okay.
And I think I still owe Carl's Jr. $4.95 for the outstanding balance for the outfit in lieu of payment.
Oh my gosh, they were charging you for the outfit. Mm-hmm. Hilarious.
So that came and went, and then I found a job with a friend of the family working on boats, and I did that for almost 20 years.
Okay.
Just polishing boats and all that maintenance, in Newport Beach. So
okay. I
got up really early, took the bus. We lived in Jonestown, which was a little enclave of, I think Mike sold drugs, and McElroy did the drugs, and me and Jonathan lived in a Visqueen patio, and I got up early and I took a bus from here to Dana Point, and Dana Point walked to John Mead's house, and then we went into Newport Beach. I did that for almost 20 years, 18 years.
Were you surfing throughout all of it?
Yeah, it was interesting. At first, no. At first, I just out of the camper. I'd been surfing every day. Been NSSA and WSA, competition with my dad. Team colors and everything. That Nancy Caton made our special shorts, and I forget the gentleman John that owned Sea Suits made red, white, and blue suits for us. So I had nothing. I had no money and no surfboards or anything. So I just worked and ate and enjoyed stuffing myself with what I missed growing up. No sugar. We ate super healthy. So I sat in this room when I wasn't working, watching Skinny Max and watching HBO and Showtime and all those amazing movies, all the TV that I missed as a child, and eating such shitty food with Jonathan every day. McDonald's, all the stuff my dad wouldn't let us have. It'd smack us if we, ate some of that shitty food. So I enjoyed that for a while. And then after a while, it was just like, whoa, this is my only real talent. And I did get back into it, and I got some sponsors. And since I was right at Trestles and rode for South Shore for a while, Jim Fuller would make my shortboards, and I kind of did a little bit of a shortboard career, and that was great. I really enjoyed competing with the best back in the really early 80s.
back to the camper, one thing that I couldn't figure out is, how did you guys have surfboards? If your parents were so short on money, did you just share one surfboard or?
I got mine. It was a hand-me-down from Jack Reinhold. It was a Jerry Lopez Diamond Tail. But my first surfboard, I should mention the first surfboard, because my dad was a doctor. If he'd work for a little bit, make a ton of money.
Oh, okay.
And so everyone's like bar mitzvah present was a new board.
Got it.
So that was, I never forget, my father-in-law glassed it, and when I look back now, it's cathartic seeing. So that first board was Danny Bronner, and he would even sign Jerry Lopez's name. So Mickey Munoz made me a Stinger, massive swallowtail, all white with a powder blue, Star of David color lightning bolt. And I had that for about a month. It got stolen at Campland, and that was probably 1970.
Oh, wow. So you guys each had your own surfboards that you were lugging around in that camper.
And we put them on the roof.
Got it.
My dad kind of built out this massive.
Yeah. I remember images.
Can you imagine? Yeah. I mean, he wasn't the greatest, Jewish carpenter. So it was so heavy and it was so cumbersome. And eventually we hit an overpass in New York and all the surfboards got torn off in the rack. And then that was another story.
Crazy. There's too many stories to actually track,
Yeah. And those bad ones are just, they're bad, but they're just etched in your memories.
Yeah.
Like, good God, you can imagine the sound of, the roof being torn off and just everything just scattered, and all these very, kind, New York drivers and stuff, and taxi cabbies, and, stopping their cars and asking if we needed help and do you want a sandwich? Fuck no. They were screaming at us and yelling. And I swear to God, I think I heard a gunshot.
Yeah.
It was horrifying.
Yeah, that's amazing. So out of the camper now, you're kind of out living on your own. That's why I asked if you were actually surfing much, because obviously there's the problem when a parent forces their children to do something with such rigor, the kid rebels and does the opposite once they're left to their own devices. And so I could see that you guys, but then I also think like surfing is different. Sure, that happens with football or soccer or whatever else, but I wonder if surfing is different, and that even if you're forced to do it from a young age, there is real beauty in it, and that it's always kind of with you, Was that the case for you? I mean, was surfing always a part, or was it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. But also I was smart enough to know I can't like hang up my surfing career at 16. It goes to transition from an amateur with my dad, kind of laying out exercise programs and a diet that we were eating, and pre-warm ups, and it was pretty intense. Starving, during competition day, not water, but no food. Wanted us to be really, really hungry, and we had that kind of real finite, I think, balance and focus when you're really hungry. But it's like breathing air too. It sustains us, and it kind of feels really good,
Yeah.
Take a breath, and it feels, that good surfing. And, back then I was, riding, I think I finally got a McElroy twin fin, and, to do like a backside, 360, and that felt good too. That felt like breathing.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed, and always had enjoyed surfing. And that for that moment, until I turned into a longboarder, I loved every moment of it.
One thing that I had a hard time jiving was you guys being really into competition as a young kid. It seems to fly almost in the face of your dad's general ethos. Is that true or not? Do I have a misconception there?
No.
I feel like his kind of like free-spirited, thing is very different than like, hey, put on a jersey and go out there and beat the other people at this thing.
Right. I think, yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, that's very valid of a thought. You know, he was this surf guru, this bohemian, and lived on the road, and we did a lot of bartering, but it had to do with health. It had to do with health. And I think being a physician and being more than a physician, I think he was a nutritionalist, and he wanted everybody to live their best life and be as healthy as possible, because when you're healthy, just life is so much better. So I think if it was playing cornhole, you could do that with a pretty damn good belly. It wouldn't have meant the same. It wouldn't have had that push to make us do it. But surfing was so healthy, but I didn't personally like the competition between the brothers. I didn't mind competing against people, but I didn't like competing against us, because we were the only thing we had, and it almost seemed like, since we got we were so like mean, or we were so native, that another brother's failure you'd kind of enjoy it,
right?
And I didn't like that. I think about that, and that doesn't sit right.
It seems to be just common amongst siblings, period, whether you grew up in a camper or not. Like their sibling rivalry is a thing. It's probably intensified if you live in a camper.
Yeah, and
everything's intensified.
Yeah, 8 boys. It was, and that part was tough. It's tougher, and I think it was tougher on me because I was the best.
The best surfer.
I obviously was the best surfer.
Yeah.
Obviously. You know that too.
Of course. You've got a world championship to prove it, right?
It wasn't official, but I've got a silver cup with only mine and Nat Young's name on it, and that was 1988.
Yeah.
And
it's a big deal.
And I you know what, but just for me now, being 58 and being around, professionals and people that have been in this business making surfboards and making clothing and stuff, just to have been a contender, I'm so grateful, and I'm so, I guess I'm proud of myself to have been a contender.
Yeah.
To have been part of, this very special family that a lot of people that aren't in it would give their right arm to have been there and have done that.
Totally. Does it bother you that when people talk to you, it's always kind of through the lens of your father? They ask you about your father. They ask you about, like I started out asking that way, rather than about you. And
no, I think that's fine, because it's so, it's so legendary, his history. You've got to give that respect. You got to give that respect of somebody surfing back in the 30s, and somebody that a World War II veteran, and somebody that brought surfboards to an entire country. He was a father of surfing in Israel. It's so unique, and I do respect and love him for that. And I don't mind that at all. Even with his accolades of being a Stanford medic, graduating from Stanford Medicine, and his contemporaries being billionaires, not millionaires, now that are billionaires. But you know what? I don't think you don't know anybody in his class, in the class of whatever it was. I can't remember. Forgive me. It certainly must have been in the late 40s. But they weren't men that will be remembered. My father will, and he didn't make a fucking penny. He died, and the greatest thing that he owned was the motor in that shitty camper. That 63 cab over Chevy camper was a Corvette.
Was it really?
500 horsepower, a big block motor that he got from squirreled away, or cockroached, he used to say, from Martin Scalzo.
Crazy.
So it was like a $10,000 motor.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, it's still there.
Unbelievable. Not only is he better known than his contemporary MDs, it could be argued he did more for people's general health and wellness than those billionaire MDs.
Yeah, and his own irreverent way, and it was pretty much like, Doc Holliday, who's pretty much shooting from the hip, and it got him into trouble.
But it was common sense.
It was common
It was
trouble.
like avoid prescription medication and instead
Correct.
eat well and take care of your, get physical activity in the sunlight and put good things in your body.
Correct.
So it's shooting from the hip, but it's very common. It's
But
common sense.
I mean more rather like shooting from the hip, talking to Graydon Carter, who was the producer on his movie, and poked him in the belly and said, "You're fat."
Oh, gotcha.
Right in front of people, embarrassing him, that's fine. He does that to me all the time.
Yeah.
See my son? He is a fat pig. He used to be 170 pounds, at his fighting weight. Look at him now. And that doesn't work. That really doesn't work, It's like
It doesn't
anything.
it doesn't work to get people to change.
Get people to change.
Gotcha.
Correct.
Gotcha.
But in his heart, he really wants that person to be better. And I get it. I understand. I've gone up and down, and in my lifetime of almost 6 centuries of overindulging in getting fat and then losing weight and feeling great and then getting fat again, drinking too much fucking beer. And then I can't surf, and I'm still on my 9-footer, and I should be on a 10 or 11-footer, but I think I'm too young for that. I'll wait and be that Sano, drop in on the shoulder when I'm older. So I've made a huge effort, and a lot of us have, and a lot of Americans have. When you lose weight, you just feel so much better. When you put good things in your body, you feel so much better.
And then you forget.
And
then you forget and do it again,
My friend, I will never forget.
Good.
From this pandemic forward, I've dropped 30 pounds.
Oh,
and
really?
I feel like a new man in the water. And that's my benefit, my payoff is that I can be out in the water. And I haven't been graced with a compliment, on my surfing for the last 10 years. And, somebody said, "Oh, that was great. What's that board? An 8-footer?" And it's a 9-footer, but I'm back to a weight to where I can rip again. And at 58, I feel so good. And I'm not a typical longboarder. I'm the 80s longboarder. I'm not a logger. It's surfing. I'm on a 9-foot shortboard. When I take off, I think I'm Kelly Slater, and I know I'm not, but I want to go fast and I want to cut back. I want to roundhouse and hit the whitewater like Martin Potter, and it's been a while since I've done that.
What about the pandemic? You said you lost weight during the pandemic or since the pandemic. What about the pandemic inspired?
Well, I quit drinking.
Like officially?
Officially.
Like
officially.
not a drop?
Not a drop. And I've gone to AA meetings, and it's very new, and I've never even brought this up, but I think I needed to. I didn't want to lose my wife. I didn't want to lose my family. I didn't want to lose everything that I hold so dear, which is what my dad had. They had a beautiful family that stuck together, and you grow old and you die with your children and your grandchildren, your great grandchildren at your bedside. So I think a lot of that it was in my era of surfing, and was the 80s, and we lost a lot of great people, and it didn't sit well, but I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop putting down, the 30 packs, every day. And
what made you have the realization that you were at risk of losing those things?
I think a lot of that was the I just felt worthless in the water as a surfer and as the front man for the charity, Yeah. And I just didn't feel present. I wasn't able to help like I could. I mean, last year I wasn't in the water riding with the boys, just too heavy, too tired. My back hurt. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And this year was different. August and September, we did a lot of camps, and I was in the water, shoulder to shoulder with the boys the whole time, and it felt great to be back to who I was.
What methods? Obviously, you mentioned going to meetings, AA meetings. What methods did you employ to help you kind of stay sober? Obviously, it feels good to be back in the water, but then you got downtimes when you're at home and you're maybe depressed or whatever, and you want to grab a drink. What methods have been helpful for you?
Just the light, I feel, and quite literally the lightness, throwing away 50 years of surfing just would suck. And I've seen that with, older longboarders that, oh, you still surf? Forget that. You should get one of those toy haulers and go to Glamour, man. Tell you what, man, you can ride all those dune buggies and stuff. You don't need to surf. Too hard, too cold. And I didn't want to throw that away. So that kind of echoed in my head.
Good.
And I'm taking care of a 30-year-old autistic man. So waking up hungover, I don't want to do anything. But my job is to get up and to bathe him and to wash his ass, make sure his crotch is clean and got powder on it, and make sure he's shaved and his teeth are brushed, and all his salves and ointments and balms are on. And then I send him down, and Danielle gets him dressed and packs his lunch and get him out the door. And I need to take care of him. And I'm at the age where either going to slow down and stop, or you're gonna fix some things and you're going to continue. And I'm his guide for the rest of my life. And I feel like I can do it. I feel when I wake up and I spring out of bed, this is part of my reason why I'm here is to take care of him as long as I can.
Let's head down that path of conversation then. But let's start with your wife. How old were you when you met your wife?
I think Danielle was 19.
Okay. She was 19 and you were?
She was 19. I was probably 23.
Okay. And what background did she come from, and were her parents weary of your background?
I got some great, weary stories. They weren't too stoked. They weren't too stoked when they found out that Danielle was dating a Paskowitz, because we lived in the Hobie parking lot. So I married a Bronner, Danielle Bronner, her brother Damien and sister Deanne, mom Sharon, God bless her, she passed away last year. And then her father, the classic dude, and I love him. I'm so in love with my father-in-law. He's just one of the boys. I can pants him, and instead of turning around and punching me in the face, he laughs his ass off. So Danny Bronner grew up, primarily in the 50s, and was a part of that production movement of longboards, and worked for Velzy in the early days, and then was Hobie Alter's right arm man, producing and churning out all those million of surfboards out of that little factory in Dana Point. So, and then also Danny is the drummer in the Sandals that did the Endless Summer music. So, yeah, I met Danielle, and it's not a very romantic story, at a party in San Clemente. I'd been working on my $600 Impala all day long, and I got it working, and I was so happy to have this car. I got it when I was 21. And I just cleaned my hands with WD-40, didn't do the second process, which is soap and water. But I said, Abraham, Jonathan, let's go. I hear Sue is having a birthday party. Let's go, since my brother Jonathan knocked her up. And we're going to go say, hey, we're here to support you. If when you have your son, we're here as uncles. And when we showed up there, immediately there was Danielle, this tall, blonde, such light blonde hair from the sun, and big boobs. And I was an ass man back then.
She converted you?
Yeah, she converted me to a boob man now. But I was just absolutely head over heels. Yeah, I mean, it was like I want to be with her for the rest of my life. The moment I saw her, the second I saw her, which maybe in turn, since the story is going to go to the bathroom, got my tummy a little upset. And you know what they say, butterflies turn to poop. So I had to go to the bathroom and the studio, ultimate party foul. But I was in that kind of I smell like WD-40. I'm not like fully like, in that zone, to meet girls.
It's nerves. It's
straight in there, poop, open the door. There she is with her friend Terry. And I don't think I could think of what everyone says. Hey, don't go in there. Give it 45 minutes or so. So the ultimate party foul. And hindsight, she said, Terry, her friend, said, oh, he's cute. And Danielle said, oh, God, not even. He's so gross. Who the hell would do that? And that was our first meeting.
You set the expectations right out of the gate for what to expect. So apparently you had to, she had to warm up to you.
Yep. But it was kind of a very a cool, intense 2-week romance. And then she went off to London and went off to Europe for a trip with a friend and meeting old friends. And I moved to Israel and planned on really, kind of that was it. I was going to live there for the rest of my life. And got to work with my dad's friends my dad brought the surfboard in 54. He gave it to Topsy Konsolpolsky, and I worked with Amur, the son, and Nir, and we worked on making shortboards. So I kind of had a little bit of a, back to the career of shortboarding and guiding the young surfers of Israel into something really exciting and bright, these colors that were dull and very muted in the factory that they were making boards at in Haifa to like day glow and hanging out with the boys and a little bit of California lifestyle over there. What, you guys don't drink beer? No, we're serious. If we need to wake up with the buzz, the bombs, we need to take out our Uzis and kill people. They were more focused and just it wasn't as laid back. So,
what's the name of that label? Or what factory?
Inner Surf.
Okay.
Inner Surf Surfboards. And I really enjoyed that, really enjoyed hanging out. But, I did meet Danielle and that I never forgot about her and would hijack phone lines and talk to her all night long with neighbors that were out of town and wrote letters back and forth. And so she kind of drew me back. But then I finally, I was it. I went back. She picked me up from LAX. I drove. I had nowhere to stay, and I stayed with her at the house, at the Bronner's house. And the next morning, I woke up with the sheriff's with their guns drawn and saying, "We need Izzy Paskowitz to come out immediately." And I grabbed my passport. I had my underwear on. Sharon is screaming, "Oh, I told you he was such a fucking loser. I told you. Why did you do?" Danielle's crying. Danny is laughing. You go, "Hang on, let me get my camera. I got to get a picture of this." Yeah, got to get a picture of this. This is funny. He thought it was hysterical. I'm just like freaking out. So the time I spent in Israel, my brothers had borrowed my Impala and getting tickets, and tickets turned to warrants. And so
bummer.
That was,
not a good impression to make on our parents.
No, it wasn't very good at all. Yeah. That was the first time I went in jail.
Crazy. You guys, Isaiah's your son. Do you have 2 kids?
I have 3.
You have 3. Okay. Is Isaiah the first, the oldest?
Isaiah's in the middle.
Oh, okay.
Ella is 31.
Okay.
And Isaiah is 30, and Elijah's 25.
Got it. Okay. Can you tell me about identifying autism in Isaiah? When did you identify it? How did you identify it? Yeah,
I didn't identify nothing because I I'd gotten to a point in my longboarding career where I was traveling and writing for Nike and in magazines, and I was living in the fast lane while Danielle was dealing with autism. So she knew right away. Her friend Lois, who since died of cancer, her son Dylan had been diagnosed with autism. And you're talking back then when it was maybe 1 in 10,000, or nothing like it is today. 1 in 54 with boys. Boys are 4 times more likely to have autism than girls. She knew something was up with him, and
what did she identify, or what were the characteristics?
Isaiah, before he was 2 years old, kind of developed normally, and this is kind of the regressing type of autism that I hear are kids that get diagnosed. He had a lot of language. He had a lot of connection. He smiled. He looked at you in the eye. Even played appropriately with toys, and then he started losing that before he was 2 years old. Had no language and started with the inappropriate, playing with toys, lining stuff up, grabbing a Matchbox car and putting it up to his eye and just staring at it, staring in corners, obsessing. That obsessive compulsive was really strong with him, opening and shut doors. It was weird. It was super weird. And so Danielle started doing therapies with him immediately, whether it was with herself and him doing flashcards and trying to draw language out of him with this discrete trials. And that was a method of kind of just rewarding a monkey. If you give me the correct response, you get a Cheerio.
Got it.
So she worked on that for a long time while I was still, a viable competitor. I still was winning contests and making money for the family. She was doing her best with him.
It's remarkable that she was able to identify. So many people wouldn't identify that.
No, and the acceptance is a very tough pill to swallow.
So how old was he? And tell me about that.
He was probably 2 years old, and he got a diagnosis, and the poor guy like hopscotch from school to school every year. And
well, tell me about your acceptance of it.
Me, I didn't accept nothing.
Really?
No, and that's why part of it was the being absent and being somewhat irrelevant in my later days as a competitor, and just wanting to stay away and wanting to focus more on the party and the drinking than the contest, and which I really don't have. I don't have any regrets. My path was pretty decent. Certainly no Joel Tudor, but I think I could have done better if I was a little bit more focused. I was more heartbroken, and I didn't know how to share that. And
heartbroken about his diagnosis.
Mm-hmm. And because I didn't want her to. No, you can't give a diagnosis. What if people find out? What an asinine thing to think. But I was young. I was extremely stupid, and I thought that was relevant. I thought that was important in our life. If somebody found out, then maybe I'd lose my Nike sponsor, or Hobie Apparel would drop me, or it was talk about me, and that's not good.
It's not what kids need.
No, they need a father.
And I'm sure that you had expectations for your son before that diagnosis. How did your expectations for him shift? That's a tough one. He was supposed to be something else. In my mind, he was supposed to be like my buddies, in Jonestown, and Dino Andino and the Beshan boys. All their kids are just incredible. The Fletchers, that offspring, that generation were all the best at what they do. And my son wasn't. He wasn't going to be anything near that. So that was a tough one for me. And the first time I ever mentioned it, I do remember that very clearly, because again, I was
was in my own head and very depressed about it. I was doing the Bud tour and a pretty decent run at contests, but I was in Hawaii and I just saw Forrest Gump, and how slow he was, and I was thinking, God, this is my life. I'm going to have, another Forrest Gump at best, and other surfers aren't going to relate to my condition, and my situation. They're all beautiful, the best everything. Nothing was important if it was ugly. And I came out of that room and was at the Hilton in Turtle Bay Hilton, and I was talking with I think Timmy Curran was there and the Malloy brothers. And I said, and they could see that I was crying, and I said, oh yeah, I just watched Forrest Gump. Yeah, I was kind of sad. And they're like, well, wasn't that sad? And I proceed with saying, well, this is the situation. Isaiah's got autism, and it's not looking like what I planned for life. And then Keith told me, oh well, our sister Mary is like this big. She's still in a crib, and she can't talk, and she's blind. And it excuse me, floored me that Chris and Dan were such heroes. They were such tough guys, and I really, I respected them so much that they had that in their corner, and they were such, studs about it. So it opened my eyes that to get over myself, no more pity party, and to get back to being, the best father I can, 'cause these guys can do it and not be so emotionally, crippled by it. Maybe I can do it. So they were a huge inspiration with me getting my shit together, at least half of my shit together, and quitting the tour and getting back to being Isaiah's father, or the best father I could. And it's still been it's still been a process. It's still been a huge process, and I don't think I've fully become, the dad I want to be until like a year ago. So
really, that recently.
Mm-hmm.
What is Mary's diagnosis? Do you know?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't
know that.
I don't know if Keith and Dan and Chris want to share that. They probably. I think there is, but it's very, very rare.
Yeah.
What condition and Mike passed away, and I don't know if Mom wants to share that.
It sounds like Danielle probably owes a thanks to the Malloy brothers for helping you kind of understand her plight and what she was kind of because she was fully in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being the main provider and caregiver, or what? Not provider,
absolutely,
but caregiver
yeah.
for Isaiah. And so having you kind of jump in is a huge help, I would imagine.
Yeah, and it was, and now it's just so different. Now it's just so different. I feel like I'm walking next to the most purest, innocent, human being on the planet. I feel like I'm such an honor, instead of an embarrassment.
Well, let's talk about that. Tell me about Isaiah himself and I've seen your wife post a couple of Instagram videos of him with him. Seems like a total joy to be around and an absolute delight. And I could see you guys kind of reveling in that delight. And tell me about him. Yeah.
He's it's funny. I show pictures of my grandkids, and then I'll throw in, my 30-year-old autistic son. Check it out, man. He's singing Mr. Sun, Mr. Sun, Mr. Golden Sun. And, and he's fat, and he's bald, he's got eczema, but he is such a pure light.
Yeah.
And he can be funny. He can be super funny. Some of the shit that he says, and when he says that I pledge allegiance to the United States of a rooster sauce.
I know.
It's
like, amazing.
Did you come up with that? Or when we talk, he'll always talk about, hey chef. It precedes whatever language he's trying to tell me. Hey chef, we're in the magic school bus going to school. He's so unique. He's one of a kind, and I love that. I love being around him. I love getting up and driving him in the school bus, to the drop-off point, and then he goes to school, and his buddies that are, also on the spectrum and that are so unique as well, and for us, it's just behavior. It's behavior with Isaiah. Since he's such a big guy, and he can be a holy terror and be very, self-abusive and bite himself, and he's got scars and keloids from OCD biting, and bald spots on his head from raining these noogies on his head when he really would throw a fit, and scars of bite marks on his arm. Those are his battle wounds. But he's been good now.
Yeah.
The behavior has been pretty awesome the last 4 years. It rears its ugly head, every once in a while. But now, if I feel like I'm present and healthy and courageous, and I can handle it, where before I felt I couldn't.
Yeah.
And it's hard dealing with that because it's so unnatural. You're driving along, whack, punches you right in the face. Number one, hopefully you don't pass out and you crash and we all die. And that's rare, but
can you give me a quick education on autism?
I think my wife is best for that, but everyone has for him, like autism or something neurologic that is just different with him, and so learning is very difficult. There's obsessive compulsive traits with autism. There is a difficulty with expressing language, verbalizing, and his expressive language is very difficult. And that cognitively, when he thinks about something, he's trying to say, you can see the gears churning, but it can't express himself. So with that, there's frustration, and then there's blow-ups, and shit hits the fan.
Got it.
But then there's also, and I always joked around with some of my friends that, he's savant,
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's more of those savants, and so unique, such a unique mind. It is like a wonderful mind, and he is more smart in certain things, yet sometimes he can't remember, whether he's wearing to vocalize, I'm wearing my trunks, or I'm wearing my pants, or I'm wearing my jammies for me to tie. But he knows every capital in the United States. Most people don't know that, but his mind just saw it, picked up, and he remembers forever. And that was when he was 2 years old. He had this little book. So that part's really unique. He never forgets places. His direction is like a atlas. And I've practiced it before. I want to go to Long something sushi or Long Chinese. So I was like, okay, we're going to take off. We're going to spend all day. We're going to try to find this place. And all I got as my interface was a finger that said, this way, this way, this way. We done a lot of loops, but somewhere in Mission Viejo by the DMV, fucking found exactly what he was looking for. And I don't know where he saw it. He might have passed it on the freeway, and he just picked up on it in a millisecond.
Beacon.
Yeah, it's unique.
Crazy.
It's very unique.
How did you identify surfing as a healing mechanism?
With us, it was an eye-opener day. I'd borrowed, I'd been writing for Blue Hawaii for a while, and Glenn Minami was making my surfboards, and we were, I think, Mililani on the west side, there was the contest. And so I borrowed Glenn's truck, and all he had was chick music. So we plug in Sarah McLachlan, and we're listening to that, and Isaiah seems pretty okay. And I dropped Danielle off at Pokai Bay, and they swim all day. I went to the contest, go back, and we jump in the car. And from that ride previously, we were listening to the song Adia. Isaiah breaks in the song from no language, insomnia, to fell asleep before the song, woke up to singing, "We are born innocent." Yeah. Oh, we completely freaked. I almost drove off the road because I saw Ella, and she was asleep. So I thought somebody was in the car and playing a weird trick on me. Thought Russ K was playing a trick on me. And we looked back and Isaiah singing a song.
How long had he been nonverbal previously?
He was probably 5 years old at the time.
So he had not spoken for 5 years. Mm-hmm. He's 5 years old and he busts out into full song. Yep. So I said, what went on? What happened? What did you guys do? What did he eat? What did you smell? Who did you talk to? Did he touch somebody? What was going on? Give me details. I said, nothing. He was in the water all day long, swimming and happy and sunburned and just, yeah. And then, so that was the aha moment. And then we went home and I took out some of his classmates, the same effect. It was really fucking hard to get the kids in the water because of anxiety, because of nervousness, and because of doing something completely outside the box, what they usually do, and really having your own way. A little bit of that with autism. We just want to be happy and, okay, we don't have to do it. There was no saying no to me. You were going to go out and we were going to surf. So all of his classmates kind of had the same effect. Once they stopped crying, it was this big breath and the magic happened. Something happened in the water. Wow.
And but really a quick, cute story afterwards. I'm walking down the beach 20 years later, telling Sarah McLachlan this story, teaching her to surf. And that song, Arms of an Angel came out. And I told her that. And I just told her that last week surfing in San Diego. And I didn't mean to say you were dismissive, but I understand the gravity of everybody plays that at funerals.
Right.
So I was just one of those people that have told you that story. And she was absolutely blown away by it now. And I resent her a story that I wrote on it. And she was just like, fuck.
How did you connect
the power of music.
How did you connect with her?
Just teaching her to surf.
So she reached out to you to learn how to surf?
Our mutual friend, Kikai Mingus, was her stylist. And so, I know Izzy. He teaches surfing at San Onofre.
Okay.
But that was beautiful. And still that whole story, and re-explaining to her another 20 years almost after that,
Does he still love that song?
He still knows that song. He knows a lot of songs. And he does sing. He sings and has sang in this band called Common Sense. They're a local Laguna band. The lead singer, Nick Hernandez, he doesn't know how to talk, but he sings one song with them, and he has been for at least 15 years.
Wow. That
they let him get up, and they sing I'm Gone together. And it's pretty damn cute because he sucks, but you can just tell he's a special man, and he knows the lyrics. And he's in the pocket. He's singing, with rhythm.
I'm wondering, had he been practicing his language in private behind closed doors for the previous couple of years? Or was he just mimicking the song that he heard?
I think just the way an autism mind is wired. Is kind of like and you hear Temple Grandin verbalizing, like, I see things in pictures and I can go back to that picture and I can read exactly what I just saw. I haven't memorized it, but I'm reading it. I can see it. But to us, we hear this incredible memory, or maybe it is memory. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I certainly don't know.
It's just curious that he was able, without any practice, to perfectly verbalize words in a language.
Right. And at that, young age too, the pitch was perfect. That just angelic voice.
Man.
But so,
what an emotional.
It was. We were both crying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
So how does Surfers Healing come about?
So it was his classmates that that I first experimented on at San Onofre. And that went well. And then every Wednesday, Sonic would come, was another autistic friend, and he really, really enjoyed it. Same thing at first, it was hard and difficult. And we were, at that time, we were still doing the surf camp in San Onofre. Every Wednesday, Sonic would come, and we'd go surfing, and his dad, Cliff, said, yeah, his behavior is just better. He's more likely to engage and focus, less likely to hurt himself, less likely to obsess on things, and it's just happier. Still autistic, but less likely to have bad behaviors. And that was amazing. To me, I understood as young and really, at my peak of health and able to go out every Wednesday, even on a 15-foot day. I was like, I don't know if might have to miss this Wednesday, Cliff, but I could go down to the beach, and I knew I could time the sets and get out, through the shore break. Lifeguards come down and say, what are you doing? You can't do this. No life vest with the kid, pre-life vest day. And we went out, we got one incredible wave and just blew off his little aqua socks, and I think I knocked his tooth out.
Oh my gosh.
But
so what is Surfers Healing?
Surfers Healing is a free surf camp for children with autism. Children, teens, and adults now, since Isaiah is an adult. And it's a free one-day camp that we do all around the world. We do 26 events, 26 partners, from Raglan to Gold Coast and New South Wales, Mexico. The East Coast were gigantic. We're the largest autism event in New Jersey with over 6,000 people that show up. And we host an average of 200 children per event.
Crazy.
And I've been doing that for 25 years.
Amazing.
And now the type of guy that I have, the surfer, we called it, the instructor, there's no putting that type of word on the effect that day has on that child and on the parents and the extended family. I call them healers now, because that's what they are, and that's what that day amounts to, of young parents accepting that this is their new life, and this is not that bad. It's going to be unique, but it's not that bad. And the type of guys that come now are part of this Surfers Healing is mind blowing. From our CEO who runs this camp, Jeff Ekberg, who is forever I'm in his debt for taking on the role of organizing and helping us, wrangle all these amazing surfers together and scheduling, 25 guys traveling and getting to places and showing up on time and then getting us all back home safe and fundraising and all that. So he's been a godsend. But a pretty small infrastructure, accountants and bookkeepers and Danielle and I kind of doing most of it, and then that volunteer base, which is just so great for us, allowing us to do insane numbers because of the volunteers, because of the guys that come, North Shore lifeguards that are incredible surfers. I mean, just off the top of my head, the heritage families from the Ikaus and Zane and the Kalamas, Ikaika and his son Tamaroa, and Dave's son Austin, is incredible. Forsyth, Wally Forsyth's grandkids, my dad's old buddies, to all these guys and local surfers here. Bucky Barry, who has been with me for 22 years, who's probably seen more autistic children than any human being on this planet, if you do his numbers. And Blake Michael has been one of my kind of go-to guys. When we do tours, those two guys are always on them. Every camp, and
It's a big commitment.
huge commitment. And all those guys, Kaivi and Kamu and Kumu and Ocean, all these guys that come from Hawaii that work, they take 2 weeks off and they go home, and they're gonna struggle paying rent.
Yeah.
But when they say stuff like Shaden and Mikey Red, and I'm thinking of young 19-year-old Cody. Cody's last name.
See, pro surfer.
Pro surfer, yeah,
just Cody Young.
Cody Young.
Yeah.
Who's that 19 says, "Hey, I want to make an autism chapter in Maui." Is incredible. Such great people and they've got the ability, the knowledge, the experience in the ocean. But all these guys, the attribute that's that number one thing that they all share is the heart that they have. That they don't make, like having a special child. My biggest worry is the burden that Isaiah is on other people, and the way that they work with these children, and the parents don't feel any of that.
Right.
They tell them, in great, respect and great passion, how this has changed their lives forever, and how grateful they are to have that relationship with your child, even if it's for 30 minutes. It's been incredible, So after 25 years of getting this type of, quality of guys in the water to help me out, it's just been such a incredible life's work.
Yeah, it really is.
When I say, "Will you come?" It's not like, "Oh, I got to bribe you," whatever. It is just like, "Oh, you picked me?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you."
Yeah.
That's powerful, man. To me, that's powerful.
It's a really epic extension of that Paskowitz surf camp legacy,
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of my dad. My dad started, Paskowitz Surf Camp because it was at first, like the very first one in '72, it was for troubled, at-risk kids. Kind of the same thing I'm doing.
I know, that's what I'm
He
saying.
wanted to, he wanted people to go surfing. If you go surfing, you ride enough waves, you're going to be a little better. You're going to be a better human being.
Is there any medical science to back up the benefits of what you guys are doing? And what do you think is the actual healing component?
A very good question. And I know back then it felt right. It felt right. And I was almost worried in the beginning, 25 years ago, is next year someone going to sniff me out and say, Paskowitz is a fraud. What is he doing? This is nothing. This is detrimental. There's no benefit to this. But I knew it felt right. It was difficult to do, and you had to have the right person to have the experience as flawless as possible. Of course, there's going to be some days that it's 20-foot cyclones outside, but we convinced the Manly lifeguards to let us surf because I've got these heroes that can manage kind of that risk assessment. It is... I forgot where I was going.
What's the healing component, or what's the medical science?
Just that scientists are writing books about it. I love Wallace J. Nichols' book on Blue Mind.
I don't know it.
It's us. It's the healing powers of the water being around it, next to it. In it, the way we do is the best. And you're talking about autism and a sensory. And I don't want to say the right political words. If I say disorder, someone's going to come back at me like, "Oh, that's a loaded word." But there's something that physiological that happens in the water. The surfing, that's just rad. That's just super fun. It's the water that makes the difference. And there's those sensory pods that people are laying in water, and there's scientists doing water therapy. If you have arrhythmia, a lot of times in the ER, they're going to put your face in a bowl of ice, to kind of snap your heart back into place. So there is that healing power of the water, along with I think minerals and ionization, of this convergence of these masses together. There's something especially powerful in oceans. So yeah, I mean, that's our next step. And we have had some pretty cool surveys on the effects of water and autism, and I know those are biased because the parents love us and aren't going to put anything too bad, in a very, very arduous survey. But it was kind of that same thing, that their child left happier, and it carried on, and they were likelier to do better in school that day, and when they relive that moment or they look at that trophy, they feel better, and they're happier, and less likely to be in a bad mood.
Yeah, it's anybody who surfs innately understands exactly what you're talking about and knows all of the benefit that's inherent. It sounds like science, all the evidence is also validating it, but they haven't quite come up with the exact cause and effect. It's like
Right.
they haven't defined, salt water fixes this one thing over here and changes it. But all the evidence supports exactly what you're saying.
Right. Yeah, and I really could give a shit if it ever comes to that. Well, I need to see empirical evidence that this causes that, like you said. And, this is it's all just anecdotal.
Right.
But
the evidence is in.
There's been 100,000 children have been through surface healing.
Really?
And that ripple effect is in the millions.
Yeah.
Do you think they're all lying?
No.
They're full of shit, or saying, I'd gladly come back.
No.
Now, there is the 1% that I can't get in the water, that I couldn't push it that far.
Yeah.
That the parent says, that's it. And that's that child, and I respect that, and I pull the plug. But I'm just like them. We have, Danielle and I have a 30-year-old autistic son who we cannot talk to. And when he's in the water, he's happier. And so I think it gives us a little, not the right, but gives us a little bit of freedom to push it to that level, as long as I promise them that the guys in the water are going to be these heroes.
Yeah.
They're going to keep it as safe as possible.
Got it. We have an event this weekend. Tell me about the event this weekend,
yeah.
and can listeners attend?
Absolutely. So this weekend we're doing the Surfing Santa surf contest. That is Saturday and Sunday. There's still a few spots left, and you don't have to be like a ripper surfer. It's all kinds of divisions: shortboarding, best air, but we're calling it like the Santa's helpers. The Yule loggers are the loggers, the gumdrops are the 10 and under that you could push your child into. I'm going to push my grandson Bronson. He's going to enter it. There's SUP. I think that was super hot a couple of years ago, but a lot of people still do it, and it's great exercise. We're doing a little race there. And that's all on surfingsantacontest.org. surfingsantacontest.org if you want to sign up. And that begins at 7 o'clock on Saturday and 7 o'clock on Sunday. We end early on Sunday. And there's some great prizes, and there's cash for best air, best outfit. A lot of the guys dress as Santa. I do too. I dress as Santa, and you ride waves, and it's really cool, especially for like the local rippers, that are down there, shortboarders. That I think we got a bodyboarding division too. Not sure. That the kids paid their $60 and they like, I did something for autism. I worked with service healing, paid my bucks, and that's going to go to take a child out surfing. So I do like that effect that it has on some of the local kids in the community of giving back and being a part of this community that supports us, and we do our best and really making that count, making every dollar going into taking out more children than any humanitarian surf group does in the world. And then it all culminates with Sunday at 4 o'clock. The entire public is invited for the community to come into the main lobby, and there's champagne and hot chocolate for the kids. You get to meet Santa, and then we get to see our Surfers Healing surfboard collection of art surfboards, regular boards. I know Album has given us a board, and they're probably going to give us a board next year. And there's some really cool ones that you can just ride. Pick a Buck Zaster Hobie, 11-footer, a Tyler Warren killer 11-foot gun, the glass on fin that's like ruby red. Boards like that to ride. Then there's art boards that you just want to put in a fancy house or in your house. There's a couple of rock stars did a couple boards for us. Matt Moss, the bass player of Unreal band, killer vocals, Cold War Kids.
Love them.
Aren't they amazing?
Long Beach band.
They're
from Long Beach.
They played for us 2 years ago. Trevor on the Tracks, $60 to enter. 100 people. It was so intimate and such good people. I love Nathan Willard's voice. He's so powerful.
They're amazing.
Ohana Fest, they won. They got my blue ribbon as just the best band, best vocals, and Alex Spoon too. Anthony Kiedis has a concept board that's super sick. It's all vintage and new American flags for the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Have you heard of them?
Heard of them.
So Anthony's been a great supporter. They've played for us once. That was amazing. And so so all the boards, you can check it out online. Just go to Surfers Healing. Plural, surfershealing.org, and there's a link to the auction. It starts on Saturday, and it goes online until the New Year's Day, I think.
Oh, okay, cool.
So we've got plenty of time. Yeah, please.
And where is the event this weekend?
At the Ritz-Carlton, the fanciest hotel
in Laguna
in the
Niguel.
World. Ritz-Carlton in Laguna Niguel. And
the surf portion of the event is right out in front?
Yes, correct.
Salt Creek?
Yep,
Epic.
Salt Creek right there. Should have little waves too.
Good. Kind of in closing, how much of the way that you were raised and your father's ethos have you incorporated with raising your own kids and or your grandchildren?
I think that'll always be there. I'm different. I was born different, and my wife still, says, you're so little things that I do that are just so different than anybody else. Whatever, even the little bags I leave everywhere, with kind of, I don't know, like just stuff, I think I need or not really a runaway bag, but kind of a runaway bag.
Like toiletries and stuff, or
clothes and
just I gotcha.
Stupid stuff.
Yeah,
that just I hold on to. I'm just so grateful to be be in a modern world and not living in a camper. That part is great. But yes, I'm instilling the one thing that I think made me who I am, and hopefully a kind person. Thinking back to a father who loved his children so much so that he wanted them within arm's reach, living in such a small camper. And it kind of in a nutshell, when I think about my father and I think about my relationship with him, I think about Richmond Elementary School. We lived in a house for a very short bit in San Marcos. I was young, and he was walking by, and it was we just got into school. Everyone was in the playground. Here comes my dad, and he always his whole life is jogged in the morning. He jogs by school, and here he comes, and he says hi to me. I know what he wants. He's going to want to kiss me on the lips, and all these kids are behind me. And I think if I weren't the way I wasn't a Paskowitz the way he raised me, I would have just said, "Oh, bye, Dad." And I went to the thing. All the kids are watching me, and I kissed them on the lips. I said, "Love you, Dad." I want all my grandkids to feel how much I love them, and my children, how much I love them, and my wife, how much I love her.
Epic.
But yeah, it's been a great adventure, and I love in kind of closing the little stories of the pop outs, the autism that are kind of coming into our satellite, like Clay Marzo, the best surfer in the world. I could watch him all day long. And the stuff that he does is so profoundly autistic, and he is more higher on the spectrum than Isaiah, but he relates to Isaiah. They've hung out together, and he when he talks about Isaiah, his voice like raises an octave. He gets all excited. Oh, that's Isaiah. Oh, bro, I can eat more than Isaiah because Isaiah's a big dude. He loves to eat, and they love to eat. Yeah. And he thinks Isaiah. He says Isaiah's the man.
Yeah,
Isaiah's the man.
Yeah,
and Italo Ferreira, but he thinks Isaiah's the coolest dude ever. And I love that connection that they have. Being autistic, and Chris Ward and his beautiful son Bubs. For Chris elevating like what he's doing in the water with his autistic son is amazing, and to be a part of us is absolute honor.
Yeah,
and I love that next step.
Yeah, well,
getting radical.
You've made people comfortable discussing it, addressing it, giving in the way that Danielle was able to identify it early. By you kind of doing what you've done, people have an awareness for what it is and are able to identify it in their own people around them.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it definitely is.
That's a good thing.
Final question
Yes,
for
sir.
everybody that we interview. Has nothing to do with autism, but what was the last surfboard that you rode? What are you currently riding?
Oh, I'm in the company of team riders Henry Ford, which is an old dude, and Italo Ferreira, and I ride an Izzy Paskowitz, Timmy Patterson, super light, super flowy, like a foil of a shortboard quad, and I feel fucking like a warrior on it.
What length is it?
A 9 foot.
So a quad 9 foot.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It works insane front side. I can't get it to work backside, but front side, I am just as stoked as I was when my dad gave me my lightning bolt for my 13th bar mitzvah.
How big are the fins? Like normal quad fins?
They're not big enough.
Okay.
They're not big enough. The proportional aspect of that ratio to longboard to shortboard, I need to make a longboard quad.
Huh.
But it slingshots and it's a different era of riding, but it's not really. It's like, you see some of the shortboarders doing their kind of tail slide or super directionally, front side carve. That's not that Martin Potter or Tommy Curran cutback. I like that big rotational Kelly Slater cutback. And this board allows me to do that. It makes old men like me, feel not so old.
So Timmy Patterson, does he have an Izzy model?
Yes,
for the longboard.
Yep,
okay,
yep.
cool,
But we released that, and this is a board that we worked on 30 years ago.
Wow.
When his dad was sanding the boards, when Ronald was sanding boards at Hobie's, and he was doing his synthetic boards years and years ago. We're always friends, and always kind of he made me the best boards that I've won championships on, and won some of the biggest contests in my career. Is mind-blowing, and I feel like now's the time. Yeah. Now's the time, and I respect and love the logger types, and I tried to do it with the logs, but I just couldn't do it.
You just want to turn.
I couldn't bottom turn slow and then kind of just arch and cruise, and I don't like dodging the lip. I like hitting the lip.
Yeah, good. Epic, man.
Yep.
Well, thank you. I know this is a busy week for you guys, so I really appreciate you taking the time to share all this.
Yep. I hope I didn't get into trouble. Now's the disclaimer.
I think you're safe. All right. Thank you.
Love you. Thank you.
You're welcome.